Ready or not, here we go. I hope y'all boy ready, because it's time for the Bed For Real show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bed For Real show. We actually want to take time out to thank you for joining us again. Last week was spectacular, and we have a special guest with us today, Miss Deborah Quinones, and her topic today is The Chains Are Broken. We'll be back shortly. Hello and welcome back to the Bed For Real show. Today we have Miss Deborah here with us, and we're super excited to have you, Miss Deborah, today with a wonderful and phenomenal topic that you have. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you already stated, my name is Deborah Quinones, and originally born and raised in the Bronx, New York. Transplanted to South Carolina somewhere around 1998, and I've been here ever since. I am a single mom, mother of one, and grandmother of two beautiful grand girls, and just really excited about what God is doing.
Awesome. Well, that's phenomenal. So, leaving New York to come to the South, how was that?
A huge transition. It was a huge transition. It was a scary one, but it was something that needed to happen. The Father brought about a lot of series of events that caused me to make that decision, and it was just something that needed to happen. So what brought me here, I was in New York. I had my daughter. She was about 4 at the time. We had struggled a lot. I had just graduated college and was struggling trying to find a job in my field. My situation, I was actually on public assistance at that time, and was trying to find my way, so to speak. When I realized that I was unable to continue those benefits and I was not working, those situations kind of created those decisions for me. It was something that I just couldn't, turn my head anymore to it, and just decided I needed to go ahead and move forward. I had a friend at the time that lived here in South Carolina, and I gave her a call. And I just asked her one day, I said, hey, did you have room? And she said, well, good, you're coming to visit. I said, no, I'm coming to stay. Okay. And she was like, what? You've never even been here. I was like, it really doesn't matter at this point,
Right.
But I just felt like I just needed to make that jump. I needed to make that transition for me and my daughter. And by the end of the week, we packed up what we could. I had my daughter in one hand and a bag in the other. And we got on that Amtrak on a one-way ticket, and I've never looked back.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. I'm from New York as well, so I understand that feeling of being a single mom and going into that transition. And I have 3 children,
Right.
so I know what it is. It's like a feeling of a loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I survive with my baby?
Absolutely.
So I know that feeling. So you get to South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
How did it go from there?
It was rough. I thought I was independent. No, I realized how dependent I was upon my surroundings in New York. And New York is very easy to get around. You have your public transportation. Things close down. Well, they really don't close down. Let's just say that.
24 hours.
That's right, 24 hours a day. And I didn't know how to drive. So, just being able to get around and move around the way that I needed to was a lot easier for me in New York City. And when I moved here to South Carolina, I didn't have that. So I left, what I knew. And to get around was really a struggle because I didn't know how to drive. I had to depend on other people.
Right.
Just not having my own transitioning, leaving everything I knew to come to a place that I had no knowledge of. I'd never been to the South before.
Right.
It was really hard. It was really hard. I went through what I believe were kind of first stages of, depression. And, I went through the transitioning of going to somewhere new and just having to detach myself. I went through a lot. I was very homesick, lost a lot of weight, just didn't really, I was trying to find my way, really what it was. I was trying to find my way. And it took me some time. I would say it took me quite a few years. The good thing though was before I moved, I decided to send my resume ahead of time.
That's awesome.
And so, had her and told her, if you would just circulate my resume before I get there. So that way I would already kind of maybe set some things ahead for myself and start looking for work and things like that. So I did land a job after a couple of months of being here. And again, it was rough. It was, just living with another family, with my own little one. Recently, right before I moved, I had, I had lost a lot of people in my life. At that time, my grandmother passed away. She raised me, but my grandmother passed away maybe a couple of years prior. And so I was kind of left homeless, not knowing which way to go, not knowing what to do, but I understand the transition needed to happen. And just getting myself on my feet was really, it was a challenge all in of itself.
I can only imagine. I'm going to go back to the part of, for those that don't know what it is to be in a big city. I understand. You don't need a vehicle. You have the train and the bus, flag down cab. You can go, and you do. And being up north or being in any big city, such as New York, you really do feel like I'm empowered. I got this.
Right.
Until you come to an unknown place, and then you realize, wait a minute, I really don't have myself together.
No.
This is when you realize, okay, I need help.
Yes.
Now, I found with myself, when you get to that point and you have to ask for that help, it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy, especially when you have a child or children.
Yes.
Now you're realizing I have to depend. Do I ask, can I get a ride? Or, I'm in a strange place, a foreign place. So I can only imagine. But what I find was awesome of what you said was the part when you said, I was thinking ahead and sent out my resume. A lot of people don't think ahead. So that was awesome. That was good thinking. So tell me about the job once you started and having to put your daughter in a school at that time, or.
So I was called. I went around to a lot of different temp agencies, and I wasn't successful. Trying to find that job that I really needed. At that point, it didn't matter to me what job it was. I needed to get on my feet and get into my own. And so, just really, I think at that point when you're really down, there is no pride. Pride just flies right out the window. And so I just began asking people, hey, are you hiring? Are you hiring? Luckily, the young ladies that I began to surround myself with, the friends that I had from New York that had moved here, and then the people that I met while I was here, they were already working. They worked in a, it was like a billing location
Mm-hmm.
and spoke to them, and they circulated my resume there.
Okay.
And that's where I got my call, to come in for an interview. And that was maybe about, I would say within the first 6 months,
Okay.
I was called in for an interview and I got the job and work in customer service. My daughter, luckily for me, there was a daycare that was down the street,
Wow.
and, got her enrolled
Mm-hmm.
and just went on from there. Again, I didn't know how to drive, so I
Right.
had to quickly learn the bus routes
Right.
so that way I could, be able to get around. But I walked a lot,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did what I had to do. Basically, I walked to work if I had to, and then took the bus to come home. But the bus, because the route was a lot longer to go pick her up after daycare, I would take the bus there and then just come back. So saving money, making sure that I had it for what I really needed, just for the transportation piece. But it was a struggle, but I mean, it happened. It worked out the way that it needed to.
Awesome. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. I like what you said about learning to save. That's so important for many people to know, money come and it
It
goes,
sure does.
but you have to be wise, especially when you're doing things on your own. This can go for a man or a woman. It can go for anyone. It's real. That budget thing is real. I can say that because I felt like for myself, I'm going to always make sure that we had that roof over our head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to also make sure that my children always have, and I'll go without.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And there were times that I was in need for things for myself, but I couldn't worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
I had to pay the bills, and I was like you. I thank God that my dad gave me his little hoop-de-hoop.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, it was a hoop-de-hoop because it was the kind that, it was so funny that he had the little, what is the little lock, which is the little latch. Girl, we used to lift it up, close, and put the latch on it, but we were riding. Me and the kids were riding, girl. We were riding. But I was grateful because we had plenty of days of, just like you said, walking, and those struggles are real.
Yeah.
It's real. And when we got in our first place, oh my goodness. So tell me about that with you.
Yeah. So the location that I started working at, I met some amazing women. Truly, God blessed me, and didn't even realize, the blessing that was there at the time. Or what I call my country mamas. And we're still, we're on Facebook and things like that. But I'm so grateful for them. One of the ladies, these are some ladies from Wagner in Sally, South Carolina.
Okay.
And we all work together in the same billing office. And my first place, I saved up what I could, and it was not the best place. We didn't have anything. When I left New York, I had nothing. So to move into a place with nothing, with a baby, I mean, we made our own pillows with our coats and our clothes. I made pallets, on the floor so we could sleep, but it was ours.
That's right.
It was ours, and worked hard to save up for that little bit, that little spot. But the ladies got together and they decided to bring in some things that they were no longer using.
Wow.
So I was really grateful. They brought in some plates and pans and pots and cups and, whatever they could,
Christmas
blankets.
In the middle of June.
It was. And I was really excited about that. It was really emotional time for me, but it was very humbling. They didn't know me. Coming from, a big state into a smaller country setting, and being able to, I guess, I had to put myself in a position of receiving, and that's never been easy. Because I've always had, I got this, I'm gonna do it, but now I was in a position where I'm having to receive and be very humble about it.
Wow.
And it was almost like a breaking down process, to be able to receive gifts from someone else and with no strings attached. That's sometimes something very hard for us to do.
Absolutely.
Because coming from New York, it's always, what do you want?
Oh, come on with it. Yes.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yes.
You're giving me this, but what do you want?
What do you want?
Yeah. So, but these ladies, they just blessed me. They blessed me immensely. And my first meal at the apartment with my daughter, and I don't know if she remembers, but we had fried eggs with the stuff. Yeah, fried eggs, and I remember having to try to flip the eggs with a plastic fork. So, of course it melted on, but it was stuff that we had to do. It was really, I was on survival mode. And when I look back, I'm so grateful for the hard times because it was through those hard times in New York that I was able to remain on some kind of solid ground and remain focused on surviving here. Because it was almost like a practice, like a run, and so when I got here, I knew these are things that I had to do. We have to eat, we have to have a roof over our head, we have to have power. And so that was my focus. But, it was hard, but again, it was just a blessing. And I've learned over time to be grateful for the hard times, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
It's like a prep time, for that which is to come. But I'm grateful for those times because it showed me what was truly inside of me.
Right.
And it was survival time, and it was go time. But we made it through by the grace of God. We made it through, and I'm grateful for that.
That's right. It's almost like when you're going through that stage, it's almost like going into a metamorphosis.
Yes.
It's you're having that time. Okay, so everything on the outside is now becoming foreign. I'm here and I'm balled up, and I have to learn things all over.
Absolutely.
And your mind is so focused on your child, like I got to survive. But when you get that time to yourself and break it down, when you really realize where your strength comes from, and then things start changing then you start to blossom. So when you start to blossom, and that's when you're in your place of your own, and it doesn't matter if you don't have curtains up to your window, shades.
Right.
It's your own.
That's right.
It's your own.
Right. It was mine. Yeah. And I think we were. The apartment was really not a quote unquote apartment. It was something that the landlord at that time was able to put together. I don't know how he did it, but you could literally stick your hand from inside of your bedroom underneath the wall and feel the outside.
Wow.
It was that type of apartment.
Wow.
But again, we had a roof over our head.
And you were on your own.
That's right.
There's nothing like it.
That's right.
There's nothing like being in your own and having a peace of mind of not stepping on someone else's toes when you're in that place, right? I understand. Well, Deborah, we're going to take a few minutes. We're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back. This is Bev from the Bev For Real Show. I'm so excited. I'm here at Atlantis. Check this out. The food is phenomenal. The owner right here. Come on out, come through. Atlantis is it. The food, the music. Hands up.
All right.
And the A is down.
All right.
See you on the next time. Hello and welcome back to the Bev For Real Show. So, Deborah, we were talking earlier about new beginnings. So your topic is the chains are now broken. Tell us about that.
So I would have to, I guess, take you back as I was just, praying about this. And I this morning, I asked the Lord, I said, Lord, how do I begin, to tell that story? And he said, you start from the beginning, just from the beginning.
Okay.
So, born and raised in New York City, right? I was born in Fordham Hospital, which is no longer there. But at the time that I was born, both my parents were incarcerated. My mom obviously was released to deliver me, and she had to return to go ahead and finish her time. My father was still incarcerated at that time. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, was contacted by my maternal grandmother that I had been born. I was in a foster home. I don't remember where that was or what place that was, but nonetheless, my grandmother came to pick me up, and I do have the pictures of when she came to get me. I was about 3 months old by the time she came to pick me up from the foster home. And she told me that the day that she came to pick me up and to come claim me, that there was a nurse that had been caring for me, and she was so emotional that day because her desire was to adopt me. She thought that I was going to be up for adoption. But she took good care of me, and I've always wondered, whatever, who that was. But I'm grateful for, for just how God just, made sure that I was taken care of.
That's right.
But I was raised with my grandmother for the next couple of years, and she spoke Spanish, so I knew no English for quite some time.
Okay.
I remember the day that my mother, my biological mom, came to pick me up. For me, in my memory, that was a really scary time.
Right.
Because I didn't know who this woman was.
Right.
And I remember her walking through the apartment, a woman who looked very different than I did, and she picked me up and she took me home.
Wow. Take your time, sweetheart.
I was then brought home and I was introduced to my other siblings. I had 5 other siblings that I didn't know about.
Wow.
And the way that I remember, it was just absolute chaos. I didn't understand English. Everyone spoke English.
Wow.
I remember my little brother, just a baby, swaddled up, and just being inserted, just, I guess, so abruptly. Very traumatic. Didn't know anyone, and was just introduced to a stepfather and 5 siblings.
Wow.
And that's how it began. It was a really crowded household. Was trying to find my own place. And I've always felt like I was the oddball, the kind of the black sheep of the family.
Right.
But even in all that, I know that God had a plan. I didn't realize that God had a plan until many, many years later when I look back and I start following, God's fingerprint and start watching how he moved in my life. I had no idea.
Wow.
But it was just a really hard time.
Wow. I can imagine coming from a place of security and just speaking one language and to be picked up, placed in a foreign place, and everyone is speaking these things and you're not understanding them. Did you find that you were being bullied or picked on, or because you didn't understand? Tell me what you felt and what you went through.
Absolutely. And I think it's when I look at other families and I look at families that have multiple children, they say, it's sibling rivalry. I didn't know what that was because I was raised by my grandmother as an only child until I was about 4. But there was, my brothers and sisters, and I love them. I love my family. You know,
Right.
over the years, we've had our ups and downs, but I absolutely love my siblings. I love my mom, you know, but during that time, there was a lot of bullying. There was a lot of picking.
Mhm.
They told me, you know, they would tell me mean things. You know,
Oh, wow.
I was the light kid, you know, due to our you know, our parents.
Right.
But I was always picked on for being the skinny one. They would tell me that I was ugly. No one would ever love me.
Mm.
You know, things like that. And I think it opened the door for a lot of self-hate.
Mm-hmm.
It opened the door for extreme low self-esteem,
Right.
no confidence.
Mm.
There was so many doors of darkness and negativity that were open, and that's what filled my life.
Wow. I can't even. I can and I can't.
Mm.
You know, I can identify the part of feeling different.
Right.
You know, especially when things happen to you at such a young age. And then I'm trying to imagine, Debbie, I know that had to be hard. I know that had to be hard, Deborah. Seriously.
It was. It was. I think back sometimes, and I realized something this morning, that I was very angry. It opened a lot of doors for rebellion to set in.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people didn't understand my anger. You know, it was, oh, you know, just get over it. Things that I really couldn't express as a child, I had to
Right.
kind of suck it up, because back then you had no place, you had no voice. You know, you were not allowed to express
That's
yourself.
right.
You know,
That's right.
watch out, you're about to get a smack across the mouth.
That's right. That's right.
You know, it's real.
Mhm.
But over the years, again, you know, I guess the transitioning and growing into that rebellion, that negativity, that self-hate. I think back on that little girl and that person, and I'm like, again, you know, when we're talking about no more chains, what God has done today,
Mhm.
you know, how He's delivered me from all that bondage. I'm not angry
Absolutely.
anymore.
Absolutely. When we speak about chains being broken, we're speaking about being set free.
Absolutely.
Being set free. And it's deep to be set free when you had so much heaviness, the bitterness, the angry.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about that little girl?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that little girl.
Ooh.
What did she go through?
That little girl is still a part of me.
Mm-hmm.
I've often told the Lord, don't ever let me forget.
Wow.
Don't ever let me forget, because it's important. It's important for me not to forget what she went through.
Okay.
And it's not just for me. God has already solidified all of that was for other young women, you know, other young people that were coming behind me.
Yes.
Somebody's got to be the forerunner, right?
That's right.
So that little girl's journey was hell on wheels. You know, it was nothing but it felt like the gates of hell just
Wow.
wide open and rained on that little girl. She went through a lot of abuse. There was a lot of molestation, you know, during that time, from several members, you know, of my family. I don't know if they knew about each other, but it's something that I endured. And again, you know, when we talk about those open doors, it allowed for, you know, promiscuity in my teenage years, alcoholism, again, just, you know, the the abuse upon myself, you know,
Wow.
a lot of mental abuse, verbal abuse.
Mhm.
You know, when someone tells you, you know, you're ugly all the time, no one's ever going to love you. Who could possibly love you?
Mm.
You're ugly, you're skinny, look at your hair. It's kinky, nappy, you know, you're light and just no one likes you. The love that I did receive was from my grandmother on my father's side.
The one you were taking.
Absolutely. That was truly an angel on earth that God placed in my life. The love that she gave me, it was salvation to me. It was much needed because of all the darkness that I endured.
Right.
I had, you know, family that was involved in witchcraft.
Wow.
And my grandmother on my father's side raised me in a Pentecostal church.
Wow.
So it was a lot of light and dark in my life.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I realized that I favored the light.
Amen.
I favored the light.
That's awesome.
And I knew that that's where I wanted to be. I felt it. It was a true part of me, and God made sure that I had that first as she raised me. And I'm again just grateful for her, for what God had done. It was just a crazy time. It was a crazy time.
I can imagine. And what age was this that you were going through?
When I first was picked up by my mom, I was about 4. The molestation started maybe right around when I was 5. Wow. Yeah. So again, you know, very early on, I think, you know, when people talk about, especially for women, when women talk about molestation, it's still very taboo, almost like you know, let's not talk about it in detail. Let's not talk about, you know, what you really went through. But how could you not? How could you not? I think that that's part of our releasing those chains. That's a part, and that's the healing is our responsibility, right? That healing is we can't. We're not responsible for what we went through unless we were older and we made those choices, and those are consequences.
Right.
But the healing is truly our responsibility.
That's right.
And I didn't realize that until my later years. But when I think about the level of abuse that I endured, the molestation, I was molested by a few people in my family.
Wow.
What that did for me, it killed off my childhood. I can say I didn't have one. I didn't have one. When you're going to kindergarten, or when you're in your elementary years, you shouldn't know what it is to have oral sex with a family member. When you're in class and you're wanting to stay in school because you don't want to come home because you're thinking, you know, something is going to happen again. You know, those thoughts a child should not have to bear. You should not have to be thinking about those things. How are you going to protect yourself? What can you do today?
Who's going to believe me?
That's right. Who's going to believe me? Because I'm being told not to tell. This is a secret. You know?
Yeah, I do know.
Yeah, elementary, you should be focused on playing with Barbies and having fun and doing silly things and jumping up and down in muddy puddles, you know, as my grandbaby likes to say, you know, but that wasn't the case.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, you find, Deborah, when you're going through that, you know, I don't know if you ever heard, but we grew up, and there's so many people have grown up the same way, with the saying of what goes on in your house, stay in the house. As we got older, we learned and realized that that's not a true statement.
No.
some things that goes on a house need to be shared
Absolutely.
and not hidden,
Right.
because that's always the part that come back of who's going to believe me, you know? So I understand what you're saying, because I went through that. But mine was never from people in the household per se, except for one of my experiences of being, now that I know, it's called rape at a very young age. And I speak about that from time to time because I can relate to some of my guests that are coming on. And it's not easy.
No.
It's not, and that's a secret that you keep within until you really realize, I can't hold this anymore. And then for me, growing up, we were taught, love thy enemy. So I had to love on them. Did you find yourself the same way of not saying anything, or, just still being able to talk to them?
Because we lived in the house together, I had no choice.
There you go. And you know what? I'm so glad that you said that, because people don't understand that. When the truth come out, how can you still talk to them? Oh, look at this. You look and you're smiling with them. We didn't have a choice.
You don't have a choice. You're forced into it. And I think that's the part that also that behavior broods anger.
Yes.
It breeds anger.
Yes.
Because that person is sitting there looking at you with a smile on their face.
Oh my goodness.
And you're sitting there and you can't do anything.
You can't say anything.
So you have literally people putting you in bondage. So not only are you denied expression.
Yes.
You are also denying, you're being denied freedom. You're being denied any kind of individuality, or you have no rights. Your rights have been taken from you. They've literally been stripped.
Yes.
You have to sit there and just bear it while they're looking at you grinning, knowing that you know. And there's nothing that you can do.
This is a real sister to sister talk. This is real. This is chains that are really being broken. And I feel all over again, like I'm healing again, and I'm sure you're feeling the same.
It's a constant healing. It is, and it's almost a healing that evolves, because just when you get free from one situation, you realize there's 100 more to get free from. Ooh.
Yes.
And it's, again, because of all those doors that were open when you were little, they continue to breed and continue to grow into different areas. Because again, now that someone's abused me, I'm now going to abuse myself unknowingly.
Oh, wow.
And I'm also, I'm being mentally abused, right? Verbally abused. All these portals, all these doors are being opened, and there's literally nothing that you can do about it because you don't know any better.
You don't. You get to a place in your life where you feel almost like it's a norm, right?
It's a crazy norm.
It's a crazy norm. And when does it stop? So when you get older, you find yourself going into almost the same kind of relationships where, I guess this is how it's supposed to be, but then you have the shows that come on television, the ones that everyone's in the household and everything is great. So this is what I want to be like when I grow up, but you never find it.
No. And so you end up looking for that which you do desire, but you're never going to get there until the healing begins.
Absolutely.
And when the healing is completed.
Absolutely.
It's an evolving, it just continues to evolve. You get rid of one, here come another. Let's fix that.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back.
The Bev For Real Talk Show would like to thank the following sponsors. you would like to become a sponsor or have your commercial aired during the show, please email bevforrealshow@gmail.com or call 929-286-3513.
That's the end of today's show. As I always say at the end, be true to yourself by keeping it real for real. We'll see you next week.
The Bev For Real Show is produced by Vice Productions.